Welcome to the Cash Flow Academy podcast. I'm your host, Andy Tanner. I'm joined by my friends Noah Davidson and Corey Halliday. Welcome. We have some good news for you. You can become wealthy because investors are made, not born. How do I say that?
Yeah.
I think it'd be better. You can become wealthy because investors aren't born, they're made.
Yep.
I like that idea. We're going to talk a little bit about some big picture things. One of the blessings I had with all the time I spent learning from Robert Kiyosaki was the ability to see big picture and always be forcing myself to go back to big. Every time I get in granularity, he'd chew me out, get the context right, get the big picture right, stay big, don't get small. And that's really helpful. I still do it, still go small. It's natural to do. But we're going to talk about a big picture concept that is really important. Most people have a sense, and when I say this, just feel if you feel that it's true or false, that wealthy people think about the world differently than non-wealthy people. People who invest feel different feelings about risk than people who are not successful investors. They have different tolerances, different disciplines, different attitudes when they wake up in the morning. They just have a different mindset. And what the truth of the matter is I look at how we're born as people. No one is a born investor. People look at Warren Buffett and say, well, he was just a born investor. No, he wasn't. He did know what he wanted early in life, but he had to learn it like everybody else. And the development of becoming an investor is a developmental process. We're going to talk about that. I like what Corey said. I said investors aren't born, they're made. And Corey said,
no, I said investors aren't born, they're forged.
They're forged in the fire.
When you think about being forged, you're thinking about, like heat. Something that's in that refiner's fire, and it's heat, and then it's bending the metal, and then it's banging it to make it stronger, and it's creating that forging effect. And that gives a little different picture than just being born with like this great ability. Because you take someone like Warren Buffett, he wasn't just born, his dad was a politician and so on and so forth. He was not born to be an investor. He just found a passion for that early on. And then he went to Benjamin Graham as his mentor. And he always talks about that the biggest thing in his life was his mentors, like Benjamin Graham, who actually led him and helped him with the experiences that they had so that he could leverage their experiences, not go through the same pitfalls, but now succeed. And that's what we're all about, is that mentorship.
But before we get too far into this, there's a reason that a person would listen to this podcast and a reason people would miss it. And there's a reason people are poor.
Yeah.
And what a person should do before you listen to this podcast, take a personal inventory right now of where you're at. You might be middle class, you might be upper class, just look at where you are and where you'd like to be, and just take a personal inventory of why that is. Because where you want to go is somewhere you've never been. There's a humility to this that is key, because if we reject something out of hand, say, well, I don't want an Anthony Robbins speech, Andy, give me a trade. That in and of itself is the very reason people do not succeed.
Yeah.
Is because that's an advice mindset rather than a growth mindset. That's a detailed, give me one and done, give me a fish, not learn to fish mindset. And it is the very reason why so many people are poor, because they're in the advice culture rather than the education culture. We're going to talk about it. But first, make sure you like, subscribe, and visit yourinvestingclass.com. Go there, download all the free goodies, because that is the thing that will help people. We have found the reason we put that on there, we say investingclass.com, we've actually replaced it with an ebook, because what we found is the reaction to the ebook, what people are saying, the experience they're having with it, like, that's what people want. The feedback's been awesome. So go there, get yours risk-free. Check it out. With that, we'll do brief introductions. And then we're going to get into this idea of investors are not born. Investors are made. That's good news for you, because it means you can become one. You don't have to be born one. It's really good news. Noah, quick introduction.
I'm a 28-year market veteran. I'm a technical analyst, a trader, an investor, a mentor, coach, father, husband. I'm a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats, but
Technical analyst.
And good at all of them.
I'm good at most of those things, not all, but
Humorist?
Yeah.
Are you a humorist?
Comedian.
What's the difference between a comedian and a humorist?
sticking the punchline. I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
Who knows?
I think a comedian would maybe be up on stage and a humorist would be in a podcast with three guys.
Is that what you are? You're a humorist?
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right. We don't guarantee.
It's a label. It's a label.
We always say we don't guarantee the quality of the humor, but we do guarantee frequent attempts.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
There we go. Corey, quick introduction.
Yeah, I got started in the markets around the same time and have traded about every market imaginable: stocks, futures, bonds, options.
Forex.
I was a Series 4 option principal, so options are really my bread and butter, I would say. Probably have learned more about the options market than 99.9% of humans walking the earth, and I just love options. I love stocks. I love investing. I love sharing this knowledge that I have with other people and seeing it make a difference in their lives.
Awesome stuff. So let's talk a little bit about this. People are not, we say they're not born, they're made. Let's talk about the not born part.
Yeah.
It is interesting that people think they underestimate what it means to be a self-made investor, entrepreneur, wealthy guy. Because first of all, we have this part of our brain we're not conscious of that is risk adverse.
Yeah.
People don't care about what's true. They care about making things better. I've been doing a lot of writing in my personal writings about this, that the more and more I see AI and the fakeness of everything and how there's just the premier skill of the next 10 years is for young people to be able to decipher a veridical context from a rhetorical one. Rhetoric wants an outcome. They say things to make people do things. And that's where ChatGPT is. It is a rhetorical, the masters, those puppet masters have acquired tremendous power. And when people are getting into that, it's like trying to beat a computer in a chess match. If you're not a good chess player, you don't see the difference. And you will confuse the search for truth with the desire for outcome. And that's the difference. People who are veridical want to know what's real. That's why we say fun, simple, and real. People who are rhetorical just want an outcome. Well, if you look at every organism, the way it's built is for outcome, starting with survival, to survive and then to thrive. So most people make decisions based on like an amoeba. I have these chemicals that say there's food in my environment. I don't even have a brain. I'm an amoeba, but the chemicals say, oh, there's food over here, and it attracts me. Oh, there's a predator. I'm going away. And that's it. And we are no different as human beings, is that we run from danger and we run to food. We run from danger, we run to resources. And that hasn't changed.
We avoid pain and we seek pleasure.
All the time.
Yeah.
Very hedonistic, right? By nature.
By nature, yeah.
And I think we try to avoid pain too much when it comes to investing.
Well, and
That's why we're not born.
Yeah.
Because people by nature work so damn hard for their money that the idea of losing anything, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You can go to Nordstrom and drop, $10,000 on a wardrobe, go home happy as you can be because you're not going to lose you don't have a chance to win.
Yeah.
In other words, there's no ambiguity. You're going to lose that cash. You just bought things that are going in the landfill eventually. You bought landfill before it's in the landfill.
Yeah.
No chance to win. But as soon as you have the chance to win, which also gives you the chance to lose, that losing, people lose their freaking mind.
Yeah.
And they can't do it. So it's not just the education. It is education going to help with that. We'll talk about that when we become made. But the default setting is to go to school, do what all the masses do, get what you feel is a safe, secure job, and not have the pit in the stomach of how am I going to feed my family, all that type of
and
stuff.
people trade their freedom for safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is the default setting, right?
It's thinking way too small. They're not thinking big picture. because if they were thinking big picture, they would think entirely different, right? But by thinking small, the things that they hear from a Dave Ramsey who's talking about little tiny dollars, right, that really aren't going to make a huge difference in their life and in their retirement when you're talking about skip a coffee here or whatever. The decision you make to buy an investment property is going to have such a bigger impact than you skipping a coffee now and then. You know what I mean? It's just you're thinking way too small and you're thinking way too risk averse. I'm kind of reminded.
Deprive yourself of those joys in life.
Yeah,
and you can have a little.
But also,
it's just
his dogmatism towards debt. Is completely misplaced because it's an issue of emotion for him, not smarts and utility. It's not intelligent. He's debt's bad. I'm scared of debt. All debt's bad. That's a dogmatism that says all fire is bad because it burns people. No, fire cooks the food. It lights the way. It chases off the bear. It gives me warmth. Lights my way. Can I burn myself if I play with matches? Sure, I can. But fire has far more utility to the positive. I mean, it runs our cars, the whole thing.
Well, there's an interesting debate about whether or not U.S. government debt is risk-free because it'll pay you a return, right? Is it truly risk-free? Well, I could argue that the stock market is risk-free. But why? Because it always goes to new all-time highs eventually. Mm-hmm. So anyone investing in it makes money. Now, people would push back and say, well, it's not guaranteed to always make a new all-time high. Well, it always has throughout your entire life, right? But and we could make the same argument that the U.S. government debt, well, they've never defaulted. Well, but they could in the future, right? Other governments have defaulted on their debt. So really, there is no risk-free anything. There's no risk-free anywhere, right? You always use the analogy of, well, is driving to the store to get some milk, is that high risk or low risk? And people will say,
it's low risk.
Everyone will say low risk. No, it's high risk. You could die doing that. Yeah. But the probability is very, very low. Investing in the stock market is not a high risk. I mean, it depends on your time horizon, but basically the stock market through our entire lives has always gone to new all-time highs, always. So it hasn't been the risky place to put your money. It's been a better place to put your money. But this is why it's tricky.
This is why they're not born and they're made. Because here's the deal. You're not born with financial intelligence. Now, you might be born with intelligence. Certain guys are just, Elon Musk and Gates and, Buffett and all these geniuses. Yeah, they were born smart, but they still had to learn it.
Yeah.
The difference between those guys and the dummy is it takes me longer to learn it.
Yeah.
But I have to work harder to learn it. Look, I can get an A in calculus. I just had to take it 3 times.
Yeah.
My son took it once and killed it. Dad had to take it 3 times.
Yeah.
But we both understand it. We both got there, right?
Yeah. So, I just avoided that class.
Well,
Speaking of avoidance,
which shows you might be the smartest of us all. But people are not born like. Let me just take on what you said a moment ago. Well, stock market going up or down. I'm so sick of that.
Yeah.
That's not even the game.
It's not.
They don't even understand the game. The game is production consumption.
Yeah.
The choice is not whether you believe the stock market is going down. The reason it's guaranteed is I don't need my stocks to go up.
Yeah.
Now let that sink in for a minute. I don't need them to go up. I need them to continue to pay my dividend and continue to get premiums from the options that I sell against them.
Yeah.
That's all I need. And when push comes to shove on the desert island, there's people that have the resources and can produce and people that need consumption. And the default setting, the reason people are poor, is we are not born producers. We are born as consumers. We are born needing things, not producing things. A baby sitting there, God, it doesn't give anything other than, makes mom smile, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look how cute. She's adorable. But the reality of it is they're born needy. Food, clothing, shelter, medicine, heat, warmth, life, whatever. And so that default setting of consumption, I need this, it creates the fear of starvation.
Yep.
It creates the fear of getting killed. It creates the fear of having an outcome that's negative. And that base thing we're born with, needing an outcome that's positive and being scared of negative ones, it just kills you. Because you don't even think about being a producer because you're so worried about fulfilling the needs of consumption. It's Maslow stuff.
Yeah. Well, that is primal. I mean,
it's
you're
Maslow
talking
stuff.
about lower limbic system responses to stimulus. You're talking, I mean, to really rise above that base need or that base, consumption, you have to start using your frontal cortex, and you have to start to understand there's a different way to think about things. Like most people are risk averse. If you
just think about losing your job.
Yeah.
Right there. If you have a job and that's the majority of your income where you're at, just think about the feelings that would enter in your heart if you lost your job.
Yeah. Well,
I mean to interrupt you there, but
I was worried about losing my job all of a sudden.
Well, I'm picturing this person, it's like you're a psychiatrist or something and they're laying on the couch, right?
Tell me about your father and why you feel like you are disappointing him.
Exactly. But it's sort of that I'm picturing this where this person is telling you all their fears, right? And it's like, well, what are you really afraid of when it comes to investing, stocks, options? What is it? And it's always price. And that's the dumb
damnable
thing.
That's the thing about going public.
Yeah.
But it puts a price on it.
They're worried about one simple thing, my stock price going down. That's the whole reason that people avoid investing. And it's the whole reason that people make all the mistakes that they make, like panic selling and doing all those sorts of things.
All of it.
Because they're simply worried about the wrong thing.
They think that they're losing money instead of losing production power.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's interesting is Buffett he talks about this in his letters. He says we have our common stock segment and our wholly owned segment. And so Fruit of the Loom doesn't have a price on it. So when the market, crashes and everyone poops their pants, he's happy. He's going to sell more underwear. Yeah. He doesn't care about he doesn't care about the price. Like he owns Duracell batteries. People are still going to buy them.
Yeah.
Right?
He loves when the market goes down because he buys more shares. He gets a bigger stake.
But he's buying production capability, the ability to produce. And when a person is so needy and they see their resources as shrinking when that nothing of the sort has happened at all, Apple dips. They still going to make phones. They still going to produce. And you made a great comment when Buffett saw that the phone was a thing that was a now necessity. People couldn't live without their phones. He's like, moat.
Well, yeah, that's exactly, he's talked about what really transpired to cause him to buy Apple. Of course, he looked at their fundamentals, and of course, he looked at the numbers. But he says, the thing that I saw all these kids who could not live without their phone. I saw all these individuals who could not live. And everywhere you go, you see people looking at their phone. You go to a restaurant, everybody's looking at their phone. So that's a moat. That is something where people are not, it is now a necessity. They want their phone perhaps more than they want their food at this point. So it's one of those things where as an investor, we've got to look at that and we've got to say, okay, well, what are the companies that have this moat? Just the stock market in general has a moat around it because but the reason the stock market has its own moat is those are the producers. So if you want to buy into the producers, you go to stocks. If I want to buy the best phone company in the world, I go to the stock market to get my share. If I want to own the best energy companies in the world, I go to the stock market to get my shares of energy. If I want the best technology, the best financials, the best whatever, I go to the stock market to get my share of that production.
If you're back in the 50s and HP hasn't created calculators and using a slide rule, it's a valuable piece of equipment because you can figure out a lot of stuff with the slide rule. But if you go to a person who's an infant and you have an ice cream cone in one hand, a slide rule in the other, they'll choose the ice cream every time. Well, that's how people are with investing with advice. Now, this is another reason why Wall Street I don't think it's sinister. I think it just happened. I mean, often when
I think it's sinister.
there you go. I knew you pushed the conspiracy button.
Well,
anytime there's an injustice, anytime people are getting robbed, it's hard to believe that it's happening innocently.
Well, I mean, a conspiracy theory is really nothing more like this. Hey, I got a plan. Tell me what you think about this.
Yeah.
We get other people to give us their money, and then we make profits off it. How does that sound to you guys?
That's
a conspiracy. They conspire.
Wait, I thought this was I get 3 people under me, and then each of those 3 sell 3
10 of your
people
friends get 10 of their friends, and 10 of their friends.
and it just makes this big pyramid. I don't know.
You and this Illuminati with the eye at the top, right? So here's where I'm going with this. Because there is a culture of advice, think about how the culture of advice appeals to that human that's not developed yet. Okay.
Yep.
Advice, does it take any work to learn anything when you're just told what to do? No. Go buy gold. That's my advice. Didn't have to learn anything. Didn't have, okay, I'll go buy gold or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Stock, real estate, go buy Tesla. Okay. They want this because they don't have to learn anything. Number 2, lazy, no work involved at all, right? Third, no responsibility, because if I do lose, now I get to blame someone else other than myself. So all of the trappings and all of all of the flaws in our human machinery that we're born with make us bad investors. We inherit fear, we inherit emotion, we inherit greed, we inherit laziness, we inherit the something for
fight
nothing
or flight.
appeal. We inherit all those things, and that's why it's just, I don't want to mess with that. I just want to pay my fee and put it in my 401k. I don't want to mess with that. That's a very lazy way to put it. If it's because they want something for nothing. So what you'll find, and I learned this from Blair Singer probably better than anyone else. Blair Singer is like, I've never seen a dude, I'll bet that guy's put between $500,000 and $1 million into his own personal development. Like, he's put more into his own than going to law school. He, instead of working on learning law school, he worked on developing himself. The dude hikes Kilimanjaro. I don't know how old he is because he's ageless. I really don't know how old Blair is. I know he's older than I am. He hikes Kilimanjaro every year. Takes a whole bunch of people up there through this journey. It's insane. But he's the guy that really showed me. He says, you'll never be bigger than your own self-concept, he would say. And, things require energy, he would say. And he's all about work and getting better. And I finally had the epiphany that becoming an entrepreneur and investor really is about personal development in overcoming the things you were born with and understanding the flaws in your machinery that they're not your fault. You're just born with them. But it's about personal development. And I've never seen anyone go from rags to riches without becoming a better human being, unless it was given to him in the lottery or something, which we can't count on. So this idea of personal development being a bad thing instead of being something that we crave is the real line. People will listen to this episode probably less than one where we say, we're going to teach how to, do a butterfly on Tesla. Okay, agreed. No, don't just butter. What is that?
Well, that's going to be a great episode too. They should watch that.
But this one's important. This one they won't. But this is the more important one.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Because it's about be, do, have. It's about who you become. When we come back, I'm going to share with you some things that I'm an unfinished man. We all are, unfinished human. But I'm going to share with you 3 things that have been real game changers in my life. They're very precious to me, and I'm going to share them with you on this theme of none of us were born investors. Investors aren't born; they're made. I'm going to share with you the 3 things that I think helps make an investor, and they are more valuable than the Tesla trade. Really think that. Last episode we said, hey, I'm going to do a butterfly on Tesla, and everyone's like, oh, I know what to advise. But there is a bigger picture of that, and for the person that can strain and find the truth in what this is, they're about to change their lives. So we'll be back in a moment.
Really, I think anybody can follow Andy's steps to learn this. He made everything so easy You can actually ask real-time questions with them and get real-time answers. There's so many different trading platforms. They will take the time and be able to show you how to use whichever platform you're on.
I've just really enjoyed how they have taken what could be complex material and really made it simple to understand. Learned how to take some of the complex trading strategies and produce cash flow. They really go beyond just trading stocks. They really make it about lifestyle to make yourself the best person you can be. Everybody that's an expert started out as a novice. You got to start somewhere.
Welcome back to the Cash Flow Academy podcast. I'm Andy Tanner. This is where we make investing fun, simple, and real. I'm with Corey Halliday, Noah Davidson. Guys, thanks for being here.
Excited to be here.
Before I talk about the three, I'm going to reveal that are three big ones, three huge ones that have been game changers for me. Let's talk about your game changers. If you could pick the Corey, I remember we met very, very, very early on, and I remember we were in a seminar together. That's where we met. Mm-hmm. And you'd come out, and you kind of saw this, and it was like, I'm not going to come to any more seminars. I'm just going to go do this.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend,
Robbie,
who actually introduced me to the financial markets. Yeah. And
you were gone.
We were roommates. Yeah, and I immediately went from there and got licensed. I just went to a brokerage. I said, I'm going to go into this industry. And that was the start of my journey. I don't know, that was over 25 years ago. Hard to believe.
But you passed me so fast.
Well, I mean, it was just something that I was really passionate about. And, I always make the joke that I really don't know anything about astronomy or geology or whatever. But if you want to know stocks, that's one place where I can actually share some knowledge and information. And what I've always found is this idea of this personal journey is it's along the journey that's so amazing and so much fun. See, sometimes when people think, well, I'm going to work on myself and self-improvement, they almost look at it like it's a chore, and you're looking at it the wrong way. It's actually the whole part of the journey is what's so much fun about it, right? And of course, there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be days where you're on fire and other days where you're not quite as excited. And it doesn't matter what it is you love, that's going to be true. If you love golf, well, there's going to be some days where you love being out on the golf course. And there's other days where it's kind of a grind and you're not playing so well. But the point is that whole process is something that you have to figure out that, okay, this is something that I actually love and enjoy. And I found that the majority of people, there's always an exception, but the majority of people, when they learn this, they actually really enjoy it because it's not manual labor. It's just this process of self-development and self-improvement. And the financial markets, what I've learned is it's not just, we think of it as black and white. Oh, I'm just learning about stocks. No. You're learning about yourself. You're learning about your fears and your greed and your emotions that you'll feel throughout this process. And you'll be better at controlling those and learning how to basically identify the emotions that you're feeling and how to channel those in a better way and do all those sorts of things, because that's a lot of what we emphasize is, the old Warren Buffett adage of buy when others are fearful and sell when others are greedy. These concepts are really about knowing how the public, the emotions in the market and how you're feeling about that. Because as humans, when the stock market's tanking, we're going to feel some of the same emotions that everyone else is.
You're born with it.
Yeah, like COVID. We're experiencing that like every other human. We see that the stores have empty shelves, and it's sort of, you walk through the store and you're like, I feel like I'm in a movie right now. Yeah. You're feeling those emotions. But at the same time, we're scooping up stocks. And they're some of the best stocks and the best bargains we ever had. And so you weigh these two things and you go, man, what a rough time in the world. But what an amazing time to learn, to develop. And some of the opportunities that it presented were the best opportunities of our lifetime in the midst of all this chaos.
It's interesting how Buffett, the best trade he ever had was the Apple trade. He's divested some of that, but that's the best trade he ever had.
Yeah.
Bigger than Coke, bigger than Moody's, bigger than any of them. And it's interesting. I thought, wow, that's pretty late in life to have your best trades. And then I realized now that I'm 5 years out of COVID, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my
How
gosh.
amazing it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
freak. Noah, personal development. What do you think? What were you born with that you had to overcome to get to where you are? What were you born with? When I say investors are not born, they are made. What were you born with that was the anti-investor inside you? That there's an irony here. The very first, it's widely argued and accepted that the very first option trader was one of the Greek sages, the first and oldest Greek sage, Thales of Miletus. Well, if you go over there, they have the sages in order, and he's the oldest, considered the first, and they kind of have a monument that they built to these guys, old, ancient stuff broken apart. And you know what his saying was that he was known for was know thyself. Know, and what it meant to know thyself is to understand the flaws in one's own machinery, that I am my own worst enemy. We have met the enemy and he is us.
Yes.
What is that in Noah Davidson?
Okay. Well, I'm wired a little bit differently than a lot of people. A lot of people, the vast majority of people over the years I've met are extremely risk averse.
Yeah.
Probably, I am not.
You have a mutation there.
I do. I have some, and I don't know what it is, but I've always been a bit of a risk taker. And early in my trading and investing career, that really worked to my detriment, because I understood the concept of risk and reward and probability. What I didn't understand is my own psychology and emotional makeup around how I behaved around risk. And where most people were risk averse and afraid to pull the trigger, I fell into
You were Captain Kirk.
Let's
go down there.
Let's
it's
go down and
1,001, but we're going to go down and win.
And, through trial and error, years of self-discovery, mentorship, and just a lot of persistent work, recognizing those things myself. What I discovered is what a couple of Nobel Prize economic winners discovered. It's called prospect theory, is that when people are in a losing situation, they become risk seekers. So what would happen to me is
Houston.
I would take a calculated risk knowing that I would probably going to win, but I was so invested in the idea of winning that when I started losing, I let the losses mount, and I was using a little bit of leverage, and I'd be like, oh, I'll just let it ride. And what I had to do is I had to flip the script on that, where it's when I first start losing, I shut that off right away. And this is the old, from a trader perspective, you let your winners run, you always cut your losers short.
Quickly.
But the average person, that is not innate.
Can't do it. That's really true. They're risk adverse at the beginning, but once they get in and they lose, they'll risk even more to try to get back what they lost.
Yeah.
They double down and double down because they're still afraid of losing.
Yeah.
It's still
it's
the
how
fear.
the casinos make all their money.
It's
right?
exactly
that's why they put ATMs over in the corner. Boy,
it's exactly true. You got to win that thing back.
Yep. And that's actually born out of loss aversion. People don't like losing. Their egos get involved. And they will double down just to avoid the pain of losing.
Yeah.
Three things.
Just that hope of getting back to break even.
Three things that have helped me. And I get frustrated here because I know human nature, and the paradox or the irony here is the very things I'm about to say don't land with people because they can't see it. In other words, I know what I'm going to say and I know how it works. And I'll give you a couple of analogies. And I've said this maybe before, so forgive me if I have. The first is the attitude towards opportunity for development. People that, and this goes back to what you said, is the journey and the process electrifying, or is it like this? So I had a little experiment. We're kind of at a fun time in life. I knew my son would be tall when he was born, and my both sons are tall. And whether they'll both play college basketball or not, who cares? But we did want to play varsity. And my one son still has that goal in front of him. My other son, he's got a basketball scholarship now, so he gets to go play more. But I said, let's do an experiment. I told my wife, on my little cash flow game board, you have your dream. You start with your dream. I go, I'd love to build a basketball team that that was just a freaking winner, just unbelievable. Take what Rick Majerus taught me and teach it. I'm a pretty good teacher. That's what I do in my life. And I thought I'm going to take my teaching skills, my ability to make things fun, simple, and real, put it into this basketball team. So when my son turned 8 years old, I took pretty much at random. You had to be in my school district. I wouldn't create an all-star team. We didn't want to get kids that were born. We wanted to make them.
Yeah.
So you had to, in order to be in my team, you had to live in the school boundaries. And we took these kids, and I rented a ballroom in a hotel after tryouts. And I picked, some kids that looked like they could move. 8-year-old kids are not innate basketball players.
Yeah, they had not been forged yet.
Yeah, they're not made. They're not born. They definitely need to be made. And my son was by far the worst player on the team. I knew that. He's lurpy and tripping on his own feet, uncoordinated, and worst player, worst athlete on the team by far. That's why I had to coach it. It's the only way he'd get picked. And my older son. And my younger son, I put him on that team so he'd have to play up, get tougher. So I rent this hotel room, like a smaller ballroom, and I've got a presentation ready, slides, the whole thing, and the parents are like, wow, this is really with refreshments.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole deal. And I said, I'm going to do a 6-year experiment, and you're welcome to come along for the ride, because some of you won't make it. And some of you will, but I'm going to provide a college level experience for third graders. And I'm going to be helicopter dad here, and I'm going to go nuts with this, and we're going to do this right. And I said, I will provide a practice for your son from 3 to 5 every day, 2 hours, 8 years old, 3 to 5 after school program. So you guys, by the time you get home from work, they'll be there, 3 to 5. I'll take that 2 hours. And then I'll provide a review film of every possession your kid plays. Every game we play, I'm going to film, and I will do a Facebook page that's private, and I will do commentary, kind of like Kobe's Detail on ESPN, where your son's standing, where he should have stood, where he did this well, where he didn't do this well, highlight the positives, look at the improvements. And I'll also provide a scout film. We'll send out whoever we need to get a film of who we're going to play, and we'll do a scouting report on everyone we play. And the parents were split down the middle that fast.
Yeah.
This is how they responded. I remember one parent in particular who said something like this: really? 3rd grade, really? You're going to practice every day for 3rd graders? Really? You're going to have an 8-year-old kid do an hour of film on every game he plays? Are you even serious? And you're going to scout 8th grade or 3rd grade kid? You're going to scout 8-year-olds? Really? Really? That's what you're going to do here. That's what I'm involved in here, right? And the other parent said, really? Really? You will do that for my son. You will provide a practice. You will really do this, even though he's only 8 years old. Really? You will? Really? You'll do a film for these kids? You'll really do that? Really?
Yeah.
And it took about 6 weeks for the, what do you want to call them? What woke,
the complainers.
What anti-woke word can I use here that doesn't get me canceled? The panty waists, I don't know what to call them. The guys who were weak, gone.
Yep.
Gone. This is too much for my son.
Couldn't handle the fire.
This is going to be hell for him.
Yeah.
And the other one's like, we're all freaking in. You'll do this 6 years. We'll be there 6 years. We'll do this.
Yeah.
And we got our butts kicked, but we wound up winning. And every kid that stuck with that, a lot of them played in college. A couple of them got to go to college, and every single one of them made their varsity high school team. Every single one of them made it. So that stuff works. Well, what's the story of the Maury there? It is the attitude towards the process.
Yeah.
And I had a guy who said, Andy, how like I have the 4 pillars training is the basic training that we offer people. Like if you haven't been in that, get in it. And it's funny because people say it's 20 hours. And I had a real interesting conversation the other day, 20 hours. And someone said, should you really advertise that it's 20 hours? And I saw it right there. It's like all they saw was what? 20 hours.
Oh, man. Really? Yeah.
And I said to this guy, what if it was he has a daughter plays basketball. And I said, what if I said Michael Jordan was coming to train. How many hours would you like? He'll train your daughter. How many hours would you like? He goes, as many as I could freaking get. There's Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen sitting here. I don't know which one's who, but I would spend every amount of time I possibly could, because you're right. You know more about options trading than 99.99999%. And that's either an opportunity or burden for someone. And I know this is the least important thing people think, but it's the most important thing you can know, is your attitude towards your personal development of wanting to go through a process as an opportunity as opposed to a burden. And that's really what it is. One man's paradise is another man's prison. One man's burden is another man's opportunity. I learned that in that basketball team on the very first day.
Yep.
What some saw as a burden and pain and a negative, others saw as a life-changing opportunity for their son. And those that stick with it, unbelievable results. I mean, their kids were so freaking far ahead, and it was huge because they weren't great athletes.
Yeah.
Particularly my son, he's still not, but he's going to play in college because he's got it here and he's skilled. He's not a great athlete yet. He's playing above the rim now, but still he's 6'9", so that's not hard. But that's the key. Now, and who wants to hear that as a lesson to get rich? Nobody does, unless their brain is already in the, oh, my opportunity. If we looked at it statistically and I said, hey, go to yourinvestingclass.com, there's free stuff there. What makes one person say, oh my gosh, what could these guys, boom, I'm going all in that process. And the other guy says, oh, geez, that's
I don't even want to go look. Yeah,
that's a whole click away because it might be work.
Yeah. And the other part is,
we are not born, we are made.
And as you were talking about this, the other part that stood out to me is that the other things that these individuals could learn along the way that didn't have anything to do with basketball. How much better are those kids off because they learn that there's a process to getting better, and that there's processes that you can go through for anything in life. If you want to be better at something, you put in some work, you put in some goals, you start to focus, right? You start to measure your performance, and where you measure it, you improve, and all of these things. And so the life lessons there of that ability to grow and to learn. And that's the same thing it is with spending time with Andy at, going to yourinvestingclass.com, pulling up the ebooks. It's not just about the financial markets. There's so many more lessons to be learned there. Yeah. And that's just huge, I think. I
said at 3. That's one. When personal development and education became an opportunity rather than a burden, things really changed for my wife and I. That really changed a lot of things. And I hated school. So the idea, that was a big one for me because I hated school. And when that flipped, that education hierarchy I have, when that flipped where I said, wait a minute, I get to decide now what I want to learn. It's actually cool. It doesn't suck. Yeah. Like school sucked all the way through college.
Turns out I love learning.
Turns out I love learning. Turns out I love learning from people like you guys. That's number 1. Number 2, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is, to me, a book about mentorship. Who am I hanging out with? And my wife gets credit for this because we read it and we tried to buy assets and we failed because on the first reading I said, this is a book about assets and liabilities and clearly understanding the difference between the two and choosing assets.
Yeah.
Then I realized on a second review, I was like, no, this is about a man who was not an investor, who was not born an investor, a man who became an investor because he had a rich dad in his life. And he would have found one regardless because he wanted it. So that's number 2, is who you hang out with. And number 3 is habits. The reason I plug and the reason it's been so successful, the thing we have at yourinvestingclass.com right now is really a habit. You're going to learn about a simple habit, a once-a-week habit, absolutely life-changing, absolutely life-freaking-changing once-a-week habit. And those are the 3 things I would say in big picture, where if you want to be an investor and you want to go from not being one that was born and made, your attitude towards learning, who are your mentors in your life? I've had some insane, lucky mentors in my life over the last 20 years. And then what are the daily habits where my behavior begins to become more congruent with what I'm learning, what my mentors are teaching. That's the trifecta of personal development. And the last thing I'll say before I get more of your feedback, I did not realize how important this was going to be in 2007, or maybe it was 2013. I can't remember which one it was, but I brought in Tom Wheelwright, and my first business partner, who's since retired. We had a meeting with Tom saying, we want to build a business around education. How do we start? And he actually told us to have this meeting. He says, I'm going to come up and show you how to build and start a business. If you want to take your talents of teaching and do it, this is what you got to do. And the very first thing he said, talk about your values. And so we did a pretty intense, lengthy exercise where we decided what was valuable to us about education. I said, I value 3 things. Number 1, education should be fun. And that very attitude towards it of saying, really, I get to learn this from Corey? That sounds like fun. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to go work out with Julian Michaels? That sounds like fun. Oh, I'm going to go hang out with Noah Davidson and learn technical analysis? That actually sounds like fun. Oh, I'm going to go to hang out with Elon Musk? That sounds like fun, not work. So fun was really important part of our values. Number 2, I value education that's simple, because the world is not a simple place. And part of my frustration in college is that the calculus and the chemistry and the frickin' physics were not simple. They were really hard to grasp. And those guys were teachers that lacked the talent to simplify. In fact, I think they even felt they were smarter the more fancy their jargon was. It was almost like an ego trip for them. Look how smart and look how stupid you are. Instead of bringing this down, they were trying, look, you got to come up here with us instead of bringing the education within my reach. So simple was a big deal. The third one was real, is I have a disdain for the fluff. I am so tired of what I'm seeing now, and I had no idea 20 years ago, or however long ago it was, 10, 15, 17 years ago, I had no idea that we live in an artificial world because of artificial intelligence. I had no idea that finding real people instead of avatars, you really want to learn from a freaking avatar? My prediction is just like we've seen a pendulum in so many areas, I think people are going to get tired of screens eventually. I think they're going to get tired of pre-programmed stuff that's designed to manipulate you to do certain things, to where they find someone that's just freaking real. Yeah. Who has real care, real talent, real knowledge, not bullcrap. And so we came away with fun, simple, and real, not realizing that those beacons would be so important. So when it comes to personal development, that's so important in this AI and going to navigate everything that's about to happen. What is your feeling towards personal development? Is it exciting to you? Is it like a meal that you're going to eat, knowledge to be consumed and taken in, or is it a burden, like having to, go clean out your garage? Number 2 is, who are your mentors? I mean, really, who can you email? I can email Noah and Corey anytime I want. Who can you email? Who can you reach out to? Who can guide you? Nobody does alone. Investors, Buffett had Graham, Robert had Rich Dad, Phil Town had the Wolf, on and on and on. Richest man in Babylon had the scrolls. Yeah. And then finally, habits. The ability to bring your daily action, which is why we have what we have at yourinvestingclass.com. Yeah. Your ability to translate that personal development and what you're learning and what those mentors say into daily acts that move the needle. Things that you do every day that will cause an impact and move the needle. So.
Yeah, and it's why we launched the coaching program, was that last one, that real, because I remember having a conversation with you and you were frustrated. There was a person that had been in our program for multiple years, and they were doing phenomenally well in their demo trading.
Paper trading account. I could have died.
And you
were
said,
so excited. They were up like $300,000 in their paper trade account.
And they loved us, and they loved the edutainment of it all, but they weren't using it. They weren't real in the markets, and they were way past time. And so it's one of those things where, we want people to use demo accounts while they're still in that learning. But once you get to the point where you've got this down, you do need to go real and into real money. And so that's where
what stopped that guy from doing it real? Because he was born, not made.
Yeah.
He was still, whatever was stopping him,
it wasn't
that he didn't have the knowledge, right? What was stopping him was the personal development of habit and that fear of putting in real money. What gift would it be to have 3 guys that could help people get over their fear of investing?
Well, I'm wondering if people knew about the Ultimate Options course, or if they knew about the coaching course, would they be like, oh really?
Well, and here's the challenge: is we don't offer those to general public because they don't have the foundation yet.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge for people. They got to have faith in get your foundation, 4 pillars, and then they can know that stuff exists.
Yep.
And then you can do the butterflies, and then you can do the technical analysis. You can do Ultimate Repair Playbook. You can do all those advanced things with that foundation. But it's good news. If investors were born not made, then if you're not born one, then when do you have the chance? I wasn't born like LeBron James. I mean, he was born. He was a born basketball player, right? And he put in work, sure, but he was born with some pretty good advantages.
Yeah.
But investors aren't like that. Investors are absolutely made. And that's good news, because if you say, well, I'm not an investor, well, maybe you're not today. But you can be one, and you can be made into one. It's forged.
That's huge news. And even more to that point, Warren Buffett talked about that sometimes having too many IQ points actually works against you.
Sell 20 of them.
Sell 20 of them for better temperament, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't have to be a genius at this. Thank heavens, because I wouldn't do well if that were the case, right? You would actually do better in many cases to have fewer IQ points and a better temperament. In other words, learning that idea of being forged, I mean, it's incredible news, because just about anyone can improve upon where their situation is and acquire some financial tools. I always think of them like a toolbox. I can open up my toolbox and I know how to do a covered call, and I can open up my toolbox and I can sell a put to acquire stock. And so there's tools in the toolbox. Well, you work at your own pace and you build that up over time. And that forging process is you start with one strategy, and then it becomes 2, and then it becomes 3. And each one of those can make you money, but you're not going to get into the second and the third until you're pretty good at the first one and you're making some money with that. So it's nice that it's kind of that stair step of, I don't need to learn it all at once. I don't have to be a genius to do this. It's something that it's learned. It's not something you're born with.
This really is the argument from Trading Places.
It's the turtle traders.
It's the turtle traders.
It's the turtle traders.
Yep.
Yeah. If you haven't heard that story, you can Google it.
If you haven't heard that story, a quick overview is 2 people bet on whether you were born with the ability or whether it was learned. And so they had a bet against each other, and they went and taught these individuals. Yeah. And they wanted people that didn't have great IQ, that didn't have prior understanding of the markets, because they really wanted to say, let's teach these people and see if it'll work. And that trading group, those original turtles, massively successful.
But here's the thing. Most people wouldn't respond to an ad like that because, I have to learn to do this.
Yeah.
If you get it presented in the right context and you said to someone, well, you could have been one of the turtle traders. If you could go back in time and you'd have seen that ad and you'd have said, I want to go through this process, do you see that as a negative or positive? And there were some people that actually saw that ad and did not call in.
Yeah.
They would have liked to be invested, but they said, whether it was their skepticism or whether it was their laziness, or there was something innate in them that kept them. The story of the turtle traders isn't who answered the ad. It's just as much the people who didn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the thing that's fascinating to watch, is you can't convince those people that they know thyself.
Yeah.
Can someone say, I am my own worst enemy here, and I want to start working here? I'd rather point at Democrats or Republicans or here or Elon or this guy or Mark Cuban or these guys or my boss or my wife.
Blame someone else. Yeah.
Well, that's Blair Singer. Don't be lame.
Yeah.
Don't blame. Don't be lame. He has a line where you go here.
I've never heard that one before. I love it.
Be lame.
Don't be lame.
Don't be lame. Don't be lame. So I thank you guys for your mentorship, and I thank you for listening. You know, we debated on whether to do this topic on the podcast because it's almost a fool's errand, because the people that need to hear it can't hear it. The fish don't know they're in water, but you can't say we didn't tell you. You know, we can sleep well at night. You've been listening to Cash Flow Academy podcast. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope it's beneficial to you. And what the real hope is, for you, not me, is that you get some action and that you begin to see personal development, mentorship, leadership, and habits as an opportunity for a very abundant life and a wonderful journey to get serious about, rather than just the passivity of more and more scrolling, more and more AI, more and more promises that are hollow, more and more things that are designed to guide someone. Find the value of fun, find the value of things that are simple, and make sure you do things that are real, that'll move the needle. With that, we'll see you next time.